into my boss's office and I told him, I'm like, look, it's my last week.
Bodybuilding means so much to me.
My body is built off of all my frustrations.
When I went up on stage, I got like hooked immediately.
Everyone likes to look at the downs and think the world is ending. They never want to look at, okay, this is going to help me.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Keep the Peace podcast, where it's all about mental peace for the everyday people with everyday problems to keep the peace in your mind. Today, we have two amazing guests. A couple that I look up to a ton, that have inspired and motivated me in my life. They just have an incredible story. All of us have great stories in our life, but this couple, not only are they married, they became professional bodybuilders on the same weekend at the same competition, while back home negotiating the acquisition of the gym that they train at and they personally train at, along with, maintaining a marriage and a relationship and being parents. So it's such an honor to have them. We're going to welcome Liz and Khi Evans. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it's a pleasure. So guys, introduce yourselves a little bit. Where are you from? How did you guys meet? And tell us a little bit of backstory.
Okay, do you want to do this or do you want me to do it? Well, we're both from California. We actually didn't grow up very far from each other. Near like Long Beach. He's from Carson.
Okay.
And that's pretty much where we met in Long Beach at a gym called Iron Addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And but before that, just to give you a little backstory of me, I was an athlete pretty much my whole life. Played soccer, actually did every sport you can think of, but really stuck with soccer. Went to cheerleading in high school, then went back to soccer, and then discovered bodybuilding later on in life. So little story about me, a short story about me.
Yeah. And then Kai, how about you?
Growing up in Carson, I played sports all my life. Baseball, basketball, football, anything you can name basically. But I played basically basketball and football. Those were my main sports growing up. As I got older, I worked obviously just like everybody else.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, like I need something to be competitive in again. So I was like, okay, let's find something where I won't get injured.
Right.
And see if that is something that I would enjoy, which led me to a bodybuilding competition. My brother was the first to talk about it. And then I was already learning nutrition and all those things beforehand.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, like let's do it. Like how hard can it actually be? So I was like, I
Right.
know nutrition. Let's figure this out. So
Right. So were you both into bodybuilding before you met each other at the gym, or did that kind of come
Yes.
after?
no,
Yes.
it was before.
It was
Yeah.
before.
I had already been competing. I had done many shows before him and I actually met, but we met at a gym where the coach that we were being coached by, he was just actually about to start to be coached by him. So then that's why we were both there at the right time.
Right. And then you struck each other's eye, and
Yes.
it's all history from
And
there.
then all history.
Right. And then, so how many years were you guys bodybuilding in the gym before you kind of met and then got married?
Oh man. I was probably lifting for about, let's see, I can't even remember.
Time flies.
I know. Trying to think. Probably a few years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah. It was probably a few years, and then that's when we met.
Right. Okay, perfect. So tell me, guys, and either of you can go first or second. What kind of inspired you initially to get in to bodybuilding? I mean, you clearly both knew the work, the mental effort, the physical effort that it was going to take. What kind of inspired you to do that? Was it a figure? Was it another bodybuilder? Was it something you guys just kind of liked? What kind of brought you there?
Well, like I said, for me, it was something to be competitive in again. I couldn't play football or basketball. My knees are shot from all the years of getting beaten up.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I can't physically do that anymore. So I was like, okay, I need something that I can focus on, put 100% effort into, and see what the outcome is. So I did my first competition. I dieted on my own. I did my own workouts. So I basically knew how my body operated without even having a coach. So I was like, okay, let me step on stage, because I'm an introvert at heart. So I'm like, it's hard for me to put myself in a limelight. I could do sports because not everyone is just watching myself, right? They're watching the team. So I can do that, but watching me individually was very difficult for me. So I was like, okay, let me step on stage. Let me see if I can actually do this without like basically, throwing up on stage.
Getting so nervous you don't know what to do. And then you ended up loving it.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So then after I was done, I was like, oh, I could do this. So then I was like, let me find a coach, and then let's do this the proper way. And then that's when I basically met Liz.
So was it one of those things where you got up on stage and it was just like, yes, this is for me. I love this. This is incredible. Even though you were an introvert and you didn't like the limelight, was that kind of the moment, that first time on stage? Or
I was extremely nervous. But I think I practiced enough to do the things I needed to do on stage to not freeze, right? So I was like, okay, I could actually do this. You
can change positions, sir. You're good.
I didn't just stand up there and just look at everyone. So I was like, okay, like this is something I can actually do. Right.
Absolutely. Liz, how about you?
Well, my story started when I was like 27. I lived on the East Coast, and I worked in a country club, and I kept seeing these girls come in, and they were very fit, and I was just like, what are they doing? I want to know them. How do I become them? And I figured out what they were doing. They actually were competing in a different federation than what we actually compete in. It's called WBFF, and it's a little bit more model-like. They have different. It's totally different than what we do.
Sure.
But you still have to obviously bodybuild and build and all that stuff. So when I discovered that, I was like, okay, I could do this. Like, I've been on stage with cheer. I was just starting to get into weight training, and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, I think I could do this. Started, learning more about it, and then life happened, and I moved across country. I moved back home, and at that point, there was a point where, because I had to start over. So my whole life completely started over. I obviously had all my friends and family here. So, but a lot of my friends had moved on or moved away and all that stuff. So I kind of essentially had to like create new friends. I had to get a job again. I had to like start all over.
Which is never easy. I don't care if you're an adult, a child. Yeah, that's just tough. Yeah.
It was very, very hard. And I kind of lost myself. And there were some moments where I didn't have the greatest thoughts. And
take all the time you need. Clearly a beautiful story. Clearly an emotional one. Putting one foot in front of the other to be across country. Yeah.
Bodybuilding means so much to me. Okay. So there were just times when I would get those thoughts, or I'd feel like I was alone. I would go to the gym. And there were times where I would go 3-4 times in one day. And it wasn't even just to work out. It was just to be there.
That was your escape.
Yeah.
That's where you felt safe. Yeah, right.
I would be on the cardio machine, crying my eyes out. And just to be around people, even though I didn't know who they were or anything. So then got really, really into it, and obviously my body started changing, and people started noticing, started asking me questions, all that stuff. And then that's when I started to realize that I didn't really have a purpose in where I was in my past. And I felt like, okay, God's telling me something, I'm just going to go with this. And then that's when I got into personal training.
Okay.
So that's how that kind of navigated. And I started helping people that way and just went full force into it.
Right.
As well as with bodybuilding, because they went hand in hand together. And
well, it's so cool. You were helping yourself by helping other people, which you found that. I mean, that's great. Yeah.
And that I mean, still to this day, like, you know, I've been doing it for 10 years and it's like, that's all I want to do is help people. So I get frustrated sometimes when I'm like, let me help you.
Yeah, right. Just say yes.
Just say yes.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so then went into both things at the same time and went on stage one time. And like I said before, when I was in cheerleading, I did competitive cheer and was on stage a lot because we did competitions.
Right.
And even when I was a lot younger, I was into music and I would sing. So I knew how to be on stage in different ways. So getting on there, it was very scary, but it was like, oh, I've been here before, just in a different way.
Felt familiar. Yeah. Okay.
And I got to kind of bring them both together because from being an athlete, you know, at a younger age, and then being on stage, it's like, I don't know, it kind of felt comfortable in a sense. Right. So when I went up on stage, I got like hooked immediately. Yeah. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, 100%. How do I get more of this? Yeah, totally.
So, and then the rest is history after that. Like,
oh, that's so cool.
So
you both had these beautiful backgrounds. You kind of, refound yourself, started bodybuilding. You guys just found that love for bodybuilding. Now we all know, well, maybe we don't all know, but a lot of people know that bodybuilding is extremely physically demanding, but it's also mentally insanely taxing on your mind. Some of the dieting you guys have to do, the pressure of working out. Statistically, 40 to 60% of bodybuilders experience some sort of, disorder or depression or concerns. Body dysmorphia, I think, is a big thing in the bodybuilding world. How did you guys overcome some of those challenges? Did you find yourself with some of those challenges, and if so, how'd you kind of work yourself through it?
So for me, like, bodybuilding, obviously you have to change your body every season because it's required for you to win, right? So for me, like, having off seasons and on seasons, I looked at my off seasons where I'm at my heaviest as it being progress for what I'm going to look like next season, right? So I never had the issue of being like, oh my God, I look like crap, or I have things in areas that I shouldn't have. So I'm like, it was never to that extent. It was always, this is going to make me better for next season. So
interesting. So you, in your off season, you were okay with how you looked and how you felt because you knew the cycle would come back.
Yeah. Cause I knew how to diet. So I'm like, I could always get back there. It's not going to be an issue. Right.
And was it, I mean, that fluctuation of your body from being off season to on season and that rapid change of being heavy to lighter, was there any concerns on, I mean, did you find yourself in a depressive state at all, saying, oh God, I'm not putting on the weight, I'm not losing the weight I should? Or did you kind of feel your friends or colleagues around you saying, oh, Kai's not looking great this year? Did any of that happen to you?
Well, everyone's going to talk. But,
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I look at it as opportunities to get better next season. I never really looked at my body in a certain way to give myself negative thoughts, because as a athlete and a competitor your whole life playing sports, like, you always have to improve. With bodybuilding, I know I have to get heavy to put the muscle on I need to be successful in my season. So I've always went back to playing sports. I'm like, what would I have done in those scenarios now? So I was like, okay, this is what I would do. So I was like, it's perfectly fine.
It was just fuel for your fire.
Yeah,
that's great. So Liz, on your side, I think it's fair to say that, ladies in general really have a lot. They want to look good. They want to look pretty. They want to look sexy. All these things, right?
Yes.
What about your struggle with some of the mental battles on, depression, body dysmorphia? Did you feel any of that?
Yes, it's definitely different than when it comes to males. But I had to deal with going from, because I switched categories, one being bikini and then going to figure, which are very drastic. And when I made that switch, I was like, I have to get big.
Right.
And I was like, this is going to be really uncomfortable. And honestly, it has to be from when I was growing up and the sports, and I had very hard coaches, and just learning that meant that what's the word I'm looking for? Just the mental strength that I had was so strong when it came to that. So when I had to go through, because when I was younger and how I was raised, actually, I had to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other way than just being the best.
Your
so,
first or your last.
Yeah. So I always had that mentality, and it was just stuck in me from, at such a young age.
Right.
So when I had to go into this, it was hard. And there were many times where, I had to tell him or communicate with him in the way of I'm so uncomfortable with my body. And it was just being aware of what was actually happening and learning how to, okay, this stage right here is for a different purpose.
Right.
This stage is for a different purpose, and then so on. Right. So
did you ever write that down, or was there anything you used to see your stages, or was it all just in your head and you said, okay, here's my path, here's my stages?
Photos. I took so many photos.
Oh, I bet.
Photos and videos. And what was really cool is going back to those every season and just seeing, okay, I was at this weight, but I look totally different now at this weight.
Right.
Or the same weight. And just so seeing all that progress was just okay, and understanding it.
Right.
You just had to understand what was actually happening. So now when I go to explain it to my athletes or people that just want to know more about it, this season is for this purpose. This season is for this purpose. So you kind of have to switch your mentality and learn, what to do in those scenarios, because they're not forever.
Right.
So it's all part of the sport.
Right. And did you have that mental awareness out of the box, or did you guys have coaches and mentors that kind of just said, hey, here's the boxes you need to put your career in. Make sure you do it, because it's going to be tough if you don't.
I mean, we had coaches that definitely helped us along the way, and we learned a lot, from each person that,
right.
And then just our own experiences alone too. But communicating, I'm a big communicator.
Right.
And I love just voicing what I'm going through, so that way I can cope with it.
Right.
So I did communicate a lot with him in certain moments, and with friends and stuff like that actually understood the sport.
Right.
But yeah, it was hard. And I mean, there's still times where I have that body dysmorphia, but
totally.
I understand why and what's happening, and just knowing that each stage is, it's for something, you know, whether it's, growing or cutting.
Right. So the knowledge is really the education and knowledge of the sport has really helped the mind to say, okay, not liking this, but here's what I need to go do to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I think, mental health and fitness, I think we can all agree, is often overlooked, because fitness is so much a physical thing, how you look, how strong you are, how much you can lift, and all this stuff. How did you guys prioritize the mental health side of bodybuilding when you needed to over the physical aspect of bodybuilding, which is what the whole sport's about?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm not super big on communication. I never grew up with communication. We don't talk about feelings when we grew up. So what I've learned is all my frustrations, all my anger, I would channel it and I would put it into something. So whether it be sports or it be bodybuilding, I make a joke about it. I tell everyone my body is built off of all my frustrations. You can see physically where all of that bottled up frustration came from.
Right. Here's last Tuesday's frustration.
Yeah.
Here's Wednesday's frustration.
Yeah. So I'm I've learned how to channel it all and then use it in the gym, which was my release. Right. After every session, I'm okay, I feel like I've been resetted and I feel good again. Right. So that's kind of how I used bodybuilding for my mental health. It didn't change anything, but physically and mentally, it made me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So I just utilized.
Well, you clearly channeled it in the right way. I mean, there's so many channels that we could go down the wrong way with frustration and stress and depression or body dysmorphia. And it sounds like how you channeled it and said, hey, time to go work, time to get bigger. I'm frustrated. Here's where I'm going to take it out. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Liz, what about you?
I'm trying to remember what the question was.
Yeah, no, all good. So we were discussing how, because bodybuilding is a sport, it's typically about the physical, right? How did you make time for the mental side when you're in a sport that's all about how you look physically?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like going back to like it just being a sport in general and looking at it in that sense. It never really, and I always wondered why I never looked at it this way, is that you're literally being judged on your physique. And that's like the one thing that we are the hardest about. And I think because I've always looked at my body in a way of like using it for something, I've never looked at it in the way of like, granted, I have thoughts of where I'm like, oh, this could be better. This could be better.
Sure.
But when it came to like bodybuilding and like learning it, I think that's what I looked at it as. I never looked at it in a way of like, oh, they don't like me because I don't look like this. It was more of like, okay, well, I just got to be better, because it's a sport at the end of the day.
It's a competition, right?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with they're not gonna look at you, or they're judging you based off like the criteria of the sport. They're not looking at you of like, because they don't think you're good enough. It's more of just, so I think just from being an athlete and knowing sports very well, I never really looked at it in the way of, I guess in a bad way, of like my body being judged.
Right.
Because I always wonder that. I'm like, how come I don't?
Yeah, right. Well, strong mental attitude, clearly, just one foot in front of it to keep going, right? Yeah. Do you guys have any specific examples you could give us during your career where you just felt down, like mentally, just like, ugh, I'm stuck. I'm not gaining the weight I should. I'm not losing the weight I should. I'm not eating correctly. Maybe other life stuff's in the way. It was one or two examples you guys get, and how did you get out of it? How'd you pull yourself?
The hardest part for me was when I decided to quit my 9-to-5 to pursue personal training and bodybuilding at the same time.
Right.
So that transition kind of was very difficult. I've been at the same place for, I think, 13 to 14 years of my life, since I was 16. So to let that all go and to pursue something that I've never even done before.
Scary.
Yeah, was crazy. And to do it like just cold turkey. I literally went into my boss's office and I told him, I'm like, look, I'm not coming back to work next week.
Right.
This is my last week.
This is my life-changing moment right here. Yeah.
So
the courage that it must have taken to say, like, that's just not easy.
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, I'm out. I literally went home. I told Liz, I was like, hey, I quit my job. Yeah. I'm going to do personal.
Were you two married before this already?
No.
Oh, you guys were together. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like,
she's like, what? No.
Yeah.
I was like, you did what?
Yeah. Excuse me?
Yeah. Because I was like, previously before that, we went to go look at Self-Made, and I was like, oh, this is a dope place. And they told us what the rent was. So I was like, okay, I was already doing math in my head. So I was like, so then that week I just had enough. I was like, look, I quit. And then I told Liz, I'm going to do personal training. Let's go to Self-Made and sign up, and let's go do this thing. I think that was the most hardest thing I had to do, because I had 0 clients. And I'm paying, at the time, it was $900 a month of rent to train clients, and I had 0 clients.
To be a trainer at a gym, you have to kind of pay rent, essentially, to work out there and train clients there.
Yeah. So I was like, I had nothing.
So no income, but $900 of outflowing cash and with no clients.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I have savings. So I was like, okay, I could probably do this for a year and see how it goes. So I was like, okay, let's get the ball rolling. Liz helped with that too. So I think that was the hardest part. And then trying to still do the whole bodybuilding thing and progress and be good the next year and do all those things was very difficult. I think
Right.
if it wasn't for sports growing up, I don't think I could actually get through all of that.
Yeah. Right.
But my parents always had a good work ethic, so I knew I had that
You had a good
instilled
example.
in my body, right?
Right.
Growing up, I was one of the youngest managers at the company I was working at before, which was a grocery chain. It was Ralph's.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned 18. I literally became a front end manager at 18. So
Wow.
so I always had that work ethic.
That drive. Yeah.
Yeah, to do something great. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, if I can do that, I can do this.
Right.
So
That entrepreneurial leap takes so much courage, and let's hold that thought, because there's another entrepreneurial leap that both of you have recently
Yes.
taken that we're going to talk about. But first, Liz, what about you? One example of a challenge you really had to overcome mentally in your career.
There was a point where I just kept, bodybuilding alone is very time consuming, takes over, like it's your life.
Right.
And there was a point where we kept pushing, and to, get our pro cards and, all that stuff. And then
Right.
obviously managing our careers and everything else on the side was very, very hard to do. And there were moments where every prep, you have to learn how to manage the mental side of it, in the aspect of you may be dying inside, like
Right.
you're hungry,
You
you're
look great on the
tired, you're all the
outside, yeah.
things, but you have to still do your job.
Right.
And there were moments where we would lose clients. It was like every single
wow.
prep, because we weren't giving them what they needed, or, we were, we were there training,
Present.
but not really present.
Right. For the viewers, prep is the months leading
Yes.
up to a big competition where
Yes.
you're crazy dieting, crazy working out, all those
Yes.
things. Okay. Yeah.
So that alone was something that we had to learn, and we knew we had to obviously go through, the hard way, lose clients and understand why we were losing them. And then every time we, wanted to do it again, then we had to realize, okay, we need to still be present somehow.
Right.
And because
While you're tired, while you're drained, while you're sleep deprived.
everything.
Yeah.
So, and it was hard, because it's like some days you just don't even want to get out of bed. You're just like,
Yeah.
I'm so tired. And it's like, I just have enough energy to just get my workouts, my cardio,
Right.
and that's it. I don't even want to see anyone's face.
Because you guys are dieting like crazy leading up to a competition. I mean, to the grain of rice, you
Yes.
guys are dieting.
Literally,
Yeah.
like
Right.
licking the bowl.
Right, exactly. I'm so hungry.
So
Yeah.
just learning how to manage that every single season was hard, because, we would lose money. We'd lose a lot of money.
You
sometimes.
lose customers. So both
Yeah.
of you were personal trainers while prepping, while becoming bodybuilders and training for competitions. You were training at the same time other people as well.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Got it. And you guys did it, right?
We did.
You guys got your pro cards on the same weekend at the same show as professional bodybuilders. What was that like? I mean, did you guys just have this immense weight off your shoulders? Was it more like more weight on your shoulders that now you're professionals? I mean, this photo here just looks amazing of you two winning your pro cards. What was that like?
It was crazy. I'd always said it when, we go for it, like we would have to do each like different preps, because it was going to be too hard.
Right.
And when he was like, we were doing the shows, and he was like, why don't we just do the show? And I was like, all right, let's see if we can still stay married. So, but I mean, it was something that we knew from day one, because that's how we met.
Right.
And, and so when we were going through it, we had taken the year off prior, which was one of the best things that we ever did.
Interesting. Okay.
Because we had been pushing for so long, like every year, 2-3 shows a year. And it was just like, we finally were like, after that one, we were like, all right, we need to take a break.
Take a step back.
And it wasn't even just like a break from competing. We took a break from meal prepping. We took a break from anything, going to shows, like anything that had to do with bodybuilding other than working out whenever we just felt like it.
You were normal humans for,
We were normal.
for 12 months.
For 12 months. And it was, and then when we jumped in it, it was like our bodies just like clicked and just.
Interesting.
So before we started, we both looked at each other and we kind of expressed to one another that like, look, we're going for our pro cards. Like we love each other. There's going to be moments where we're going to have to be extremely selfish because this is going to be a big year for us. So it's like individually
a big year.
Yeah. So I was like, so we knew exactly where we were and what we needed to accomplish. So it wasn't difficult to prep together.
Right.
Because we already laid out the expectations.
Right. Was there any doubt in your guys' mind that you guys weren't going to get your pro cards, or one was and one wasn't? Was there any doubt?
Well,
it was a different feeling for me going through it. When I was prepping, it was a different feeling that I was going through, and I was like, this is what people must be like when they say, when you know, like when you feel it, you feel it.
Right.
And I had already felt like I was, and I was with him competing. Figure is just as hard as men's physique, but I know men's physique it's extremely difficult to get your pro card. Yeah, it's very, very competitive. There's a lot more people.
Right.
And I knew he had it. So there wasn't really any doubt. It was just a matter of like, could we actually both get them at the same time? Like, could this be like, this is crazy. This is not like normal at all.
Right.
So
it's incredible.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So I think that break that we took was what our bodies needed, because when we started prep and us looking at our bodies leading up to the show, I was like, this is by far the best we've ever looked ever. So I was like, this is our year. I literally felt it.
Yeah. I mean, the year before, your body's clear needed, but it sounds like your mind's also needed it. Just too much, losing clients, gaining clients, trying to be perfect in the gym for your competitions. It sounded like the year before was the ticket of just break and peace and trying to find yourself and, be a couple, have a job, something like that. Yeah. Well, so going back to our entrepreneurial step, you guys took another entrepreneurial step together as a married couple, and you guys decide to purchase the gym that you guys were working out at and also training clients at, while at the same time going for your pro card. Oh my God. Right? If becoming a professional bodybuilder isn't crazy enough with having a normal job, you guys were in negotiations of buying the gym. I'm sure, buying a business is not easy. Tell us a little bit about that struggle and some of the things you guys had to kind of go through for buying the gym.
So to start it all off, like we just finished getting our pro cards. So we sat down and we're like, okay, like what is the next chapter of our lives, right? Like we already knew that we were potentially going to take a break from bodybuilding again, because it took all of us, for that specific show, right? We gave our all to that, and we're like, okay, like that we gave everything we had.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so what is next for us other than bodybuilding? So I was like, okay, so we're like, let's open up our own facility. Like we've built our business big enough to where we can do that. So I was like, okay, how do we do that? What does that look like? So we were looking at different spaces to see what was in our budget, like the different outlooks of that. And then Ashley, the previous owner, came to us and said that, why don't you guys just buy Earned?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Right.
So we were kind of back and forth because we were like, okay, like we've been with them for so long, like it's time to step into our own light and do our own thing.
Right.
But I also looked at the community there and the people that were at the facility, and I was like, do I want to disrupt what's going on there? Because we've always felt like that was an amazing community, and you know, everyone that works there got along. So I was like, this is a really dope spot. Like, do we want to disrupt the flow of that? And we're like, I kept telling her, like, this is where we're supposed to be.
Interesting. Okay. Liz. Never buying a business before.
No.
Never being business owners before, except for your own personal training, right? I mean, the learning curve must have just been,
It was, I mean, I've learned so much. I feel like I learned more now than I did in school.
Yeah, right. Real world examples really get you there.
So, I mean, the negotiating of it, and then, you know, there were times we were sitting on the couch and I was like, I'm so mentally drained.
Right.
I don't even know what is happening right now. It was very difficult to be actually present in the gym while all this was going on.
Right.
Because of bodybuilding, what we have to do or what we went through, it led us to here.
Right.
You know, all the struggles and all the mental side of it, and the strength that we built even through that helped us go through this, because I never ever would have imagined learning the things and going through what we went through in that whole process of buying the gym.
Right.
And still learning, managing it.
Yeah, right.
And keeping it running.
Buying it is one thing. Keeping it going every day is a whole different scenario.
Is crazy. But it was something that we had always talked about, and I was just like, okay, yeah, maybe someday.
Right.
You know?
Right. Okay, so you guys are coming off your pro card. Did negotiations for the gym start before that competition that weekend when you got your pro cards? You guys were clearly thinking about it.
Well, no, it happened after.
Yeah.
Our
okay.
pro cards.
So after your pro card, so you guys are coming off your pro card only because I know a tiny bit about bodybuilding. You guys are now backing out of prep, right?
Yes.
So you're eating a certain way and you're coming backing out of it, and then negotiations start, which is a whole new mental drain. How did you guys separate your mental awareness for the gym? Liz, you had kind of said we were kind of not there mentally. We're there physically, but not necessarily there mentally during all this. How did you guys separate the coming off pro card, bodybuilding, and then at the same time buying a business and negotiating something you never done before? How did you compartmentalize that?
I think it was, I mean, we, from each show and prep that we've been through, there were we learned over time, because there were some times where you know, him and I, we would disconnect during prep. So we always made sure after we prep, we have to reconnect. And obviously this one was a big one, because we had put every little bit of energy that we had into it. And the outcome obviously was our, you know, big goal.
Right.
And I think when we reconnected and then started discussing everything, it was more of like, okay, well, what's important now? And when we got, you know, when we obviously wanted to do our own, we had been looking for spaces for a while, but nothing really like came to us. And then finally when that came to us, and then Ashley coming to us at the same time, it was just like, there's just a lot of stuff that we've learned over the years of being married is communication. And because me being overly communicative,
the extrovert between the two of you.
Has helped.
Yeah, sure.
And helped him in the as well with communicating. So when we, you know, finally just sat down and talked about everything, I think after us getting our pro cards, it's like that door, it's not closed, but the biggest part of it was.
Yeah, right.
And so it kind of opened up, okay, well now, you know, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? What energy now, or where are we going to put it now?
Right. So you
and
guys,
it just opened.
You guys weren't like, let's take a break in life. You guys were like, okay,
well,
box checked. Yeah. What's the next? What's
next?
next? Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you guys. That's so cool.
Yeah. So like going through all of that, and then she kept
asking. Do that.
Yeah. She kept asking. She was like, "Is this something that we can actually do?" but I've already had the experience
Yeah.
leading up to this point because I've done a managerial role for all of my life. So I was like, this is something easy because it's so small compared to that. So I was like, it wouldn't be outside of my comfort zone.
Right. Speaking of your leadership capabilities in your past, and then also Liz coming and being a leader with buying this business, help me understand something. You guys were members of this gym long before you decided to purchase this gym. It's where you trained. It's where you did personal training as a job, as a career. A lot of the other personal trainers there are your friends, right? And some of the clients are your friends. And then now all of a sudden, they're your employees or they're your 1099 contractors. And, there is a responsibility there when it comes to making sure that people look good and dress right and are on time and all that kind of stuff. How was that transition from being just one of the trainers at the gym to owning the gym with some of your colleagues and your friends at the gym?
I was actually afraid of that when we first started. And I was curious to see how people were going to transition into that. And it was very cool. Like, everyone was very respectful and supportive of us and very excited.
Right.
So, and I think the level of respect that we all have for each other, honestly, at the gym made a big difference because, for example, one of the trainers who I'm very good friends with, had something that came up, and then he asked me a question, and he was like, it was something with his client. And I was even like, wait, what is happening? Right. It was weird at first. I was like, this is weird. He's asking me for permission.
Advice and permission.
But it was cool because he had already, just felt, that they're the owners, that, we're friends, but, so it was cool that it just like transitioned very easily when it came to that. The employee side of it, we are very chill, very go with the flow.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure that we weren't, because people were a little worried. They were like, are they going to fire us? Are they going to
Oh, sure. It's a
what
real worry.
What are they going to do? And we wanted to make sure that, we're not, you guys were here before, and we just want to make this a smooth transition, communication, all that stuff. Things have gotten a little too comfortable, so we kind of had to put our big bosses hats on recently. But
that is a thing.
It's and it's something that we learn too, and then you have the discussions of why and all that stuff. So communication is key. Let me tell you,
it really is, isn't it? I mean, everything breaks down if you don't have the proper. And what's interesting is you got to communicate in a way that people want to be communicated to. It's not like it's a one size fit all for anyone in any career or an athlete. You got to know, right? You got to get to know your people, right? That's interesting.
So for me, like, I've always looked at it as treat others the way you want to be treated. Yeah. So if I'm going to treat someone a certain way, would I like that if I were on the other side?
Right.
So I always have to think about that when I approach certain things.
Sure.
We've been on the other side.
Yeah. So I'm like,
right, exactly. Not too long ago.
I know.
Yeah. So same thing with like employees, right? I've come from a corporate background, so I understand how things operate, and I can be one way or the other. I could be very corporate, or I can be who I am, right? So
do you guys think that not having your pro cards would have been different buying the gym amongst your colleagues? Do you think you talked to Liz a lot about respect. Do you think the respect would have been higher, lower, the exact same if you hadn't come off having your pro cards buying the gym?
Maybe to some people, but I think the people that have seen us from the very beginning and go through our journey essentially, and not just the trainers, but I mean the members too. There are members that have even come back from way before, and even other gyms that we've been at, and just seen they already looked at us as pros before we even, they're like, you guys aren't pros? And we're like, no, not yet. Not officially. So maybe some that didn't really know us yet. And then I think, obviously having that does help all around.
Right.
So I don't know.
But I always felt like everything happens for a reason, right?
Yes.
So we got our pro cards. We're on cloud 9. Now the gym presents itself. So I think everything was meant to be the way it was supposed, how it was
Right.
supposed to turn out.
The stars were aligning, and
Yes.
you guys had the wherewithal to notice that and
Yes.
take advantage. Yeah, good for you guys. Well, not to add any more onto your lives, but you guys are also married and have to
Yes.
maintain a marriage, and you guys have a son. You guys are parents. So tell me a little bit about that. You guys are off your pro cards, bodybuilding, training, then off the pro card, buying a gym. You still have to be parents to a beautiful young boy, and then you guys have to be there for each other, right? Talk to us a little bit about the work-life balance and how you got through that.
Communication. No, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows.
No, right?
So,
Of course, right?
we had a lot of ups and downs, but like in those ups and downs, we learned from them.
Right.
And do you want to go? You can go in about your son.
Yeah, so my son is 14 now. It's from a previous relationship. Liz and I both take care of him on the weekends. He's with me most weekends. He's been there with us at
the
shows.
shows.
Yeah, totally.
Watching us do our thing. So
Right. I
it's
bet he
been-
feels so like a rock star, mom and dad. Right
Yeah.
there. Dad's up there. Look at him. That's so
well,
cool.
most of the time he's like, Dad, when are we leaving?
It's a long day. I don't blame him. It's
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
It is a long day. I've been to 1 or 2 shows. It's
Yeah.
it's a serious day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So he gets to witness all of that.
Mhm.
He's into working out a little bit, so that's cool. He plays basketball here and there. So
Right.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
yeah, he's an
Yeah.
amazing
Can't
kid.
complain.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
He's like 6 foot now. Like
Yeah, he's
Getting
a
bigger.
giant.
a giant.
Yeah. So watching him grow up and having to take care of him while doing all these jobs and careers, was there ever a time where he felt like, oh man, I feel like Liz and Dad are absent, or was it one of those things you guys had to kind of entertain, or was it always pretty chill all the way through?
I mean, he's pretty chill
Yeah.
all the time. So I'm like
Right.
he's like me growing up. I know how to entertain myself. So
Sure. Yeah.
I never had an issue with any of that. So he gets that from myself.
Right.
So if he does need something, he always just communicates it to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which is great considering you guys are just not busy at all, right?
No. I'll bring him to the gym. I'll give him a workout. It's absolutely hilarious the entire time.
Is it? Yeah, totally. You guys
But
just
he
have a
loves it
blast.
though. He
Yeah.
loves it.
It's a
Yeah.
family over there.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, what advice would you guys give other married couples or partners, whether they're bodybuilding, they're buying a gym, buying a business, raising a family? What kind of mental advice could you guys give other couples, whether it's compartmentalizing things, taking time, communication? Liz, obviously big for you. What advice would you guys give people that maybe feel like they're down or not putting one foot in front of the other?
Well, I would always say if you feel like things are just either not going according to plan or your life feels like it's a little chaotic, and the things that I've learned along the way is always to take a step back. And that doesn't mean that you're failing or you're going to stay there. It's just
Right.
take a step back, look at what's happening around you and and that is in all aspects. It's not just your career or what you're doing in your day to day. It's like your family, your friends, your support system is so huge.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something I've learned along the way. And if there's people that don't align with you in that aspect, doesn't mean that you don't need to be friends with them or not be with them. You don't need to maybe surround yourself all the time with them.
Right.
Or maybe if it's just not a good thing to have in your life at all, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens throughout your entire life, even as an adult. So when there are many times in my life where I was just like, why does this keep happening to me? So I'd always just, okay, what is the pattern here? Take a step back, look at your life, and then make a change.
Right.
And be aware of what's happening and just know that it's okay
Right.
to go through those things and to redirect,
Yeah.
no matter what stage in life.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, Liz. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. You guys took that year off before the year of getting your pro cards.
And that was hard.
Right? But it's okay. You're not going to be there for a long time. It's temporary. Taking a step back, reset, and then move forward stronger and bigger than ever. And you guys did that. I mean, that's killer. Kai, what about you?
So, like, I look at life a little bit differently, right?
Right.
Like, I look at it in a sense of things happen so you can either learn or move forward, right? Life is never linear. There's always ups and downs, and what you take from those downs can help you move forward.
Right.
Everyone likes to look at the downs and think the world is ending.
Right.
They never want to look at, like, okay, this is going to help me be a better person for the future.
Right.
I look at those down points and really like reflect and learn and really look at myself and see why those things are happening and learn how to utilize that to move forward, right?
Right.
A lot of people, I think, take those negatives and then they continue the downward spiral,
Right.
not really knowing what to do to get out.
Right. There's this beautiful quote I saw on Instagram one time that I forgot who sent it, and it was, when it's all dark around you and you feel like you've been buried, when in reality you've been planted, right? And you can grow. And I think, Kai, that's essentially what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So even now, like owning a gym, you know, owning the personal training side of things, being married, like I've really learned to reflect on life this year and to be the best version of myself, really looking inside out. And I wanted to live my life differently. Like I wanted to live my life with positive energy, not reflect on negative energy, let it consume me, and then me fall into that realm of things as well.
Right.
Regardless of who's around me, right? Like some people will have bad energy, but I don't need to separate myself from that person because you never know when that person will need you, right? So I can live my life in a positive way and then radiate it through everybody else and not have anyone waver that.
Right. Be an example.
Yeah, so that's what I've been working on this year, is to radiate positive energy regardless of what's happening in my life.
That's beautiful. Great advice from both of you. Great advice. All right, so to finish up today, guys, what's next for the Evans crew? What's next? Are we going Mr. Olympia, Miss Olympia? Are we going to open another location of the gym? What's next for you guys?
Well, I want to do my pro debut because I didn't do it this year.
Okay.
And because we bought the gym.
Right. So pro debut is once you have your pro card. It's the next show.
It's the next show.
It's the next show. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of just, it's your first showing in the body or the professional bodybuilding world.
Right.
And I would like to do it. I don't know how far I'm going to go with it. It's just I'm in a different mental state right now. And I want to see where I'm at when I'm actually in it, because it's going to be a different feeling, a whole different experience.
Right.
And so once I go into that, I'll decide what I want to do after that. I just think I reached my big goal.
Yes, absolutely.
Over 10 years of doing that.
Right.
And I gave everything, and I just want to enjoy this part of it.
Right.
And see where it goes after that. But I think Olympia is a little pushing it a little.
That's out there.
It's definitely out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have another
10 years.
5 to 10 years to do that. I will always love the sport and enjoy it no matter what. But what do we got next?
Well, for me, I don't know if I will be competing again. It's still up in the air. I'll probably just build this year, see what I can do, and then gauge it after she's done and see if it's something that I want to do. But realistically, like, my main priority now is to build our lives where I think it should be. Whether it be finances or adding another location,
Right.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what we can actually do. So
Yeah.
Wow. Love that. You guys have already accomplished so much and you're just
I know.
scratching the surface. Eh?
yeah. So I feel like we have so much that we can do. And that's what I'll be focused on next year is growing the business, growing us financially, while she gets to do what she loves. And I can be there to support her 110%. And that's my goal for next year, is to build.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful, guys. Wonderful advice. Incredible story. Congratulations on all your guys' success. You guys have always been an inspiration to me, and it's just incredible. And we wish you guys the best of luck. And thank you guys so much for being on the show today. It's really, really a pleasure. So, guys, that was amazing. Marriage, becoming bodybuilders, being parents, having kids, living a life. There were 3 main points that I really took out of that session today with Liz and Kai, which was absolutely amazing. Point number 1, Liz expressed that they took a step back. They took a step back in order to take steps forward. You know, sometimes taking steps back into an environment that allows you to heal, an environment that allows you to think, maybe gather your thoughts, put yourself or your body or your mind in a certain position, and then move forward from there can mean the difference. And, you know, Liz made it very clear, you know, when you take steps back, you don't need to spend a lot of time there. Spend the time that you need. It's an environment that's temporary, right? So a lot of people get in their heads, well, I don't want to go backwards. Sometimes going backwards and living that environment is a really good place to find yourself and heal so that you can take all those steps forward. So I thought that was a great point from Liz. And then second bullet point came from Kai. You know, he says he goes to the gym to take out a lot of his frustrations. Is there a place in your life that you can go to take out your frustrations? Not on your family, not on your loved ones, not on your friends. Is there an activity? Is there something that you can do when you're feeling stressed or you're feeling like life's just too much? Where can you go to let out that anger, that frustration? For me, I love motorcycle riding. I love surfing. Those are 2 places where I can go, I can come back, and I feel whole again, right? So great thoughts from Kai. Where can you go to kind of take out some of that frustration? And then back to Liz, our final point, she really put a lot of effort on communication, right? Communication is so key when it comes to good mental health, good marriage, good relationships, good business partners. Communication is awesome. Now, I will say it's not just about communicating. It's how you communicate, and it's how the person you're communicating to is accepting your type of communication. It would be nice if we could treat everyone the same in this world, but sometimes you have to kind of evolve your communication tactics depending who you're talking to. Is it a husband, a wife, a friend, a business partner, a sibling? But communication is key, and how you communicate and how they accept that communication, it can make a big difference in your life, and that's another great point from Liz. So anyway, 3 great points. Wonderful interview, guys. This is the Keep the Peace podcast. We'll see you next time.